Hello again. Welcome back to the Flyin Style podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Mitchell, back with my co-host, Steven Maslij.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Happy to be here.
And we are officially starting tomorrow, a week away from the start of the NFL season, which is incredibly exciting. I know we're all ready for it. I know Steve and I most definitely are.
Been too long, Matthew.
It has been too long. You know, it's a little less long for Eagles fans, considering we had our little February stint, but it's been too long. Been too long. And it's time for us to make that run back to the Super Bowl, hopefully. So
it's just annoying seeing preseason. You think it's like right around the corner, then you're like, oh wait, it's a month away. Like,
yeah,
okay, like sitting here, and you're like,
it's
oh
like
wait,
watching preseason is like not the same football. It's like it's just like it's a taste, but it's not it's fun. It's just not fun.
and then preseason's over, and it's like, oh, 2 more weeks, guys. Like, calm down. It's like, all right, just like get here. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, I totally forgot this year that they implemented the rule of since they added the extra regular season game, they took away a preseason game. Like I just totally forgot about that. And I was just like, oh, preseason's over. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's exciting. Exciting to be
here. Yes, sir. So
yeah,
jumping right into it. Obviously we're gonna have to talk about the 53-man roster, the cuts, the surprise makes. So let's jump right into that. Inform everybody. So, in terms of the notable cuts, there was only a few. I feel like for the most part, this roster was about what was expected. There weren't too many big surprises in there. There was maybe a couple. I think the biggest surprise that Eagles fans were surprised to see was the releasing of Britton Covey. It was our return man last year. Obviously, Covey was a questionable player last year. People had a lot of questions about his punt return skills, his kick return skills. Personally, we've talked about this on the podcast before. I personally felt like it was more of a special teams thing than a him thing. But clearly he didn't do enough to keep a roster spot this year. And they felt like somebody else could do the job just as good as he could. So
who's taking that over? Do you know?
Do I know? Absolutely not. I have no idea.
I have ideas, but
and what are your ideas?
I so during the practice, when they were like when I went to and what I saw on TV, it was Zacchaeus taking some of the punt returns, and I think Scott will probably he might because he just had experience, might just like hop in there and take over that if Zacchaeus doesn't do well.
Like Boston Scott?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think from what I saw Zacchaeus taking reps. I don't know if that was just strictly for practice, like just seeing if he could.
Did Quez Watkins happen to take any reps?
I did not see him take reps. I saw the other receiver that we cut, Ngata. What I forget.
Yeah, Ngata. Yeah.
I saw him taking reps this was 3 weeks ago, so anything could have changed. But I know Kez has taken somebody's. It's also sometimes his hands are questionable, but that's just because of the Super Bowl. We have a vendetta against him. It's not his fault.
Yeah, exactly. So, looking at some other spots that we lost. This one's not too big of a surprise, but he's been on the team and practice squad for a couple of years. Devin Allen, the track star. He was also cut again, which isn't a big surprise. He was cut last year too. Him and Covey are both going to be sitting on our practice squad, which is nice to know. And then the biggest surprise to me was probably Kayvon Wallace. Kayvon Wallace has been with us for a few years now.
The only reason I'm not surprised because he hasn't performed like at all of anything like I've like escalating wise. I thought we were just going to keep him around just based off the fact that I didn't realize that I didn't know Mario Goodrich is better than him. Like I didn't see that. I didn't really know anything about him, but yeah, I mean he hasn't proven anything to earn a spot. Same thing with Greedy Williams, when he got cut earlier, people were hyped on Greedy Williams for a little bit. Then they saw Job and Eli Ricks play really well, and then they're like, oh, well, Greedy Williams hasn't done anything, so bye. So it's a hard league, dude. It's first thing you know, you're starting at safety like Kayvon was last year, and then next thing you know, you're not on the NFL roster, which is that's how hard the league is, and that's just how brutal it can be.
Yeah, it's a cold world. I was just a little shocked to see him go because I wasn't expecting him to get time at safety. I was more expecting him to be a key special teams guy.
Yeah.
And I thought that he would at least get a spot in the roster for it. Not to mention he is pretty good depth to have, but we have very good depth at safety this year, so I suppose that made it a little bit harder to keep him on the roster. So yeah, I mean, I'm not super upset that we lost him. I'm not exactly ecstatic that we lost him either. I was kind of hopeful that he would stick around. He has already signed with the Cardinals, so he's already on a new team. Yeah.
Well, they need anybody because they're picking people up off the streets now. So
yeah. Yeah, well, they're practically in tank mode this year. It makes you wonder, like, do you think that the Cardinals are going to give up on Kyler Murray and go after Caleb Williams?
I could see it. I mean,
or do they take a different route and try to take Marvin Harrison really high?
They could do that. I think if anything, they're going to try to get like a lot of draft capital for the first pick. They could do what the Bears did this year, like with the Panthers. Mm-hmm. Like they got a crap ton, and they were able to move down to a spot that the Bears felt that they were comfortable in because they had Fields. I could see them doing that if they get because the Bears got a haul for that. So
yeah,
I mean, I just think the Cardinals are going to be. I think they're obviously in tank mode. I feel like obviously everyone knows they're at the bottom of the league. Maybe they make a surprise. I don't think so at all. But I mean, I guess Kyler's going to come in and just if he doesn't show it. Like he doesn't care at all, or I guess. I mean, how do you feel if you're Kyler right now? Like you're hurt, you're watching this team that you're coming back to. Like, you're not rushing back, right? Like
yeah,
you're gonna get 1,000% healed before you do anything.
He already got his money, so he's not,
Yeah, like
there's not anything particularly rushing him to come back, especially in a season where it seems like they're tanking.
Yeah. I mean, Caleb Williams, it seems like to be like the next guy up of like star quarterbacks. You could do that. Could move on from Kyler, depending what people want to give you. But they have a lot more needs to fulfill other than just quarterback.
And they have a lot of spots to fill. I think the smart move by them would be to trade back from if they were to get a top spot in the draft. But it does make me wonder though, since we're talking about it, like obviously most people believe Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 pick going into next year. What other teams need quarterback right now?
I mean, like not
many. That's what I'm. There's
a lot of started projects. I mean, obviously, I don't think the Titans will move on from their entire group of Willis, Levis, and just Willis, Levis, and obviously they have Tannehill there still. I don't think they're going to move on from those projects. I don't think. There's no reason the Texans are going to move from Stroud even if he sucks. Bryce Young, there's no reason that the Panthers would. I mean, I guess you can get a team like the Saints that have Derek Carr. Or you could get a team like the Falcons.
The Buccaneers. The Buccaneers would be a big one, probably trying to get him. You just said. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. What was the team you just said?
The Falcons, they have Ritter there, but like, I don't know how bad they're going to be. They move up.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely banking on Ritter. But I would imagine, Ritter doesn't have the big name, pizzazz that a lot of these other quarterbacks do. He wasn't like a huge name in the draft. He was obviously relatively big as one of the better quarterbacks in the draft, but I feel like he doesn't have a lot of, noise around his name. So I feel like he might be on a short leash. In terms of his productivity, if he's really kind of crappy his first year or two, he might not get a long leash to work with. But
I mean, they're just building weapons out there for like if a Caleb Williams were to come, they just drafted Bijan, they drafted Drake London last year, Kyle Pitts. Obviously Kyle Pitts hasn't shown anything, but he's supposed to be this guy. He's supposed to be the next tight end up. Which has just been a disappointment for anyone who has in fantasy or just watch him play, just not pass the ball, or whatnot, whatever the excuse you want to make for him not doing well is. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely rough for the Cardinals, but I guess rough for Kayvon, but maybe he'll prove himself and maybe he'll get a starting role and maybe a little contract for the down the road.
I hope so. Definitely hope so. But All right, let's get back to the Eagles stuff. I got a little off topic there.
Yeah.
Just want to ask that question to you, but outside of those guys, there's not a lot of big names that we lost. A few that I noticed, Aaron Sipas. He obviously kind of screwed us in the Super Bowl last year, so I don't think that's too big of a surprise. Although the big surprise to me is that we don't have a punter on the roster right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what our plan is for that.
So there's a lot of, I saw this on a lot of sports talk radio of, do you remember the punk god, Matt Ariza? Or I forgot how to say his last name.
Yeah.
The kid from Arizona that got drafted high and had the sexual assault allegations that were denied.
Yeah, they ended up being dropped, yeah.
But would you take on a guy like that could punt the ball?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, that's what I thought. I was crazy because like I'm hearing people like, no, like you can't have a guy with character and this and that. The dude punts the yard 80 yards down the field. I don't care what. Sounds really bad.
It does sound really bad, but
I don't care what you do off the field as much as like he's a punter. He's not our quarterback. He's not leading our he's not the face of our franchise. He just gets on the field.
I was gonna say. I mean, there's a couple things that go into that. Obviously, I do not want someone with like brutal character issues on the team. However, someone like the punter is not going to get a whole lot of attention. They're not going to take up a whole lot of camera time or anything. They're not going to be like all over the news. They're going to be quiet. They're going to come in. They're going to do their job and they're going to leave. And on top of that, the allegations were dropped. I hate to see that they were there in the first place. I haven't really looked a whole lot into the trial, what went down, what the situation was, yada, yada. But in terms of the fact that he's been cleared, legally, everything's supposed to be fine. Apparently, he didn't do it. I'd be fine with taking him. He could be one of the best punters of all time if he actually plays.
From what I heard, the reason that teams aren't taking him is because he's for good reason. If he didn't do it at all, I would be like mad too. I'd be mad that like I got this NFL. I was drafted as a punter in like mid round, and then I can't be on the team if he didn't do anything. If it's all clear, but apparently he's being loud and like he's kind of a cocky guy anyway because he's literally his nickname's called Punk God. Like it's like
I believe it.
And so that's what I heard that teams aren't taking him on. But like, I mean, you would think like a lot of these guys, like even like you see, like who was the Raiders punter that was killing it?
Marquette King.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
I remember I wanted him so bad.
Why isn't he on a roster?
Free agent. I don't know.
That's what like these guys like. I don't know like why some of them like they have a lot of talent. I just don't know if it's like
when it comes down to the punter position, like coaches are very, they can be particular about that kind of spot because I mean, I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but like you could just go out and find a random person on the street that knows how to punt. Like obviously they have to know how to punt. Like that's a given. But like there's a lot of people out there that have a big leg. So I mean, that's something that like, I suppose you wouldn't want distractions with, and that's the problem with Ariza.
Because he creates this.
Usually,
I can't.
And I think it was kind of the same way with Marquette King, who was he kind of made a face for himself as a punter, which is hard to do.
I mean, what other punter can you name in the league other than ex-Eagles punters? Like I can't name any other.
I can name like I would have to actually think about it, but I remember Thomas Morstead is the guy I'm thinking of. He's old though.
He's just been in the league a while. He's on brand, right?
I don't even know if I can't imagine he's still in the league. I feel like he was in like Madden 2003.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. They last a while.
Yeah, regardless, I would totally be fine with picking up Matt Ariza if he doesn't have character flaws, like like major character flaws.
Yeah,
but we'll see. And then moving on to the last couple that I was a little surprised about. We did let go of Dennis Kelly and Brett Toth, two depth guys for O-line that have been around the team for a little while. I believe we picked up Dennis Kelly recently, though, right? Like he was like a late, add and scratch.
I think
Either
so.
way, these are guys that I kind of assumed would be on. They've been on the roster in previous years as depth. I kind of assumed they would be still, but they're pretty happy with their depth. And actually, when I was looking at the 53-man roster, I was also impressed with the depth at the O-line position. The only person who doesn't have any depth is Jason Kelsey, because why would he? You know,
it would just be switching over Cam Jurgens. But yeah,
I know, exactly.
I hate to say that out loud, but yeah, I hope.
No, I know.
I don't want to say
I'm just making a point that Kelsey just doesn't get hurt. He's just a little tank. That guy.
Yeah, it's insane.
And then lastly, these are ones that we kind of expected. I'm sorry, I have to plug my computer in. I'm moving my computer around. Lastly, Dan Arnold and Tyree Jackson. I was a little surprised to see them go at the tight end depth position.
We got Albert O, baby.
We did get Albert O, and we also have Calcaterra. So that's reasonable depth too. I'm not upset with the depth we have at tight end. I was kind of just surprised to see Tyree Jackson and Dan Arnold go. And then lastly, the last person I can really think of that was really big on this list was Greg Ward, which isn't a surprise to any Eagles fans, but he's obviously a fan favorite. He's been around for a long time.
It's just sad to see he gets on the practice squad every year. He could literally do anything. He could go out and have 200 yards a game for the 3 games he plays, and he'll get cut the next year. I don't
exactly.
It's just so sad.
He's a good receiver. He's just he's getting old at this point. He's not quite good enough to catch that roster spot anymore. Not to mention our receivers are very solid.
Yeah.
So all right. Next, let's take a look at the full roster.
A couple of guys that stood out there in camp that are 2 Alabama guys, 2 cornerbacks, the backups. Eli Ricks was getting a lot of buzz during preseason. He played really well against Indianapolis, going up against Pittman and Alec Pierce there, and he shut him down. He looked really good. Like the PFF stats were saying he had the best. I think he might have had the top QBR against him as a corner during preseason. But that, what does that mean? But still, he's still playing against
great reads on the ball. He was staying on the receiver's hips, and there was only one player I remember seeing him really slip up bad. He got his ankles broken a little bit, but he plays really good coverage. He was doing great.
Yeah, and then it was I kept seeing videos of Smitty seeing Josh Jobe, his buddy, get that pick. He was so hype about that, and
Josh Jobe is pretty good. I was very impressed with his play in preseason.
And he will be a gunner on special teams as well. So and he's a good tackler. So that's good to see. Because we need that Super Bowl. There are little things that you take from the entire roster, and you're like, oh, that's a good guy, not only depth wise, but he's going to be able to play special teams and do it well, and that's always key to see. Yeah.
The other spot I wanted to talk about was the D tackle position, which is where we kept the most amount of players on the roster. We have seven players in depth on the D tackle position, and looking at that, there's a couple guys that stood out in preseason that ended up getting their spot. First of all, Ajomo, our rookie pick, had a great preseason. Absolutely earned his spot. I'm happy to see he made his way onto the roster. Tui Pelotu. I don't know how to say his name quite right. Also another guy. These are guys that aren't going to get a lot of playing time, of course, but they're good depth to have. They played very well in preseason, and they absolutely earned their spot. And then Street, another guy.
I don't know much about Street at all.
I don't know a lot about Street either, but I did hear a lot of buzz about him in preseason and that he was playing well.
I mean, there's a guy on there that they should have cut, and his name's Derek Barnett.
Stop it. Derek Barnett is a pain in the ass, but he's definitely not cut worthy.
Why not? He goes off field every single time.
Stop it.
He goes off field every single time he's outside contain. Literally go to open practice, and I literally watched this man 3 times in a row because you could tell what he's wearing. He's wearing these black joggers instead of everyone else wearing shorts. He's wearing black joggers, so I see every single play he is. He's literally running upfield instead of keeping outside contain. He every time, and it's and then I literally saw D quarter and kept yelling at him. He's like, "What is wrong with you?" then during practice you're over at Landon Dickerson, hit him in the back of the head, like because you got put down in your butt like a little.
Yeah, that was some BS. Some BS.
Like, I know they're just keeping him around so they can try to get some trade value out of him, try to get a pick for him if that's what he wants. They're trying to let him.
I think there's more than one reason for keeping him around. I think that's one of the reasons. I think, I do think that they want to get trade value for him. Obviously, he just asked for a trade. He thinks he can get time at a different spot. I think he's a little more full of himself than he should be. I don't think he's in any position to be asking for a trade like he's done something. But granted, I do think that, this isn't the first time we've run into this situation where we drafted a DN in the first round and they didn't pan out for a good 6-7 years. And that guy is Brandon Graham.
Yeah, but
that was the same situation where they hung on to him, all that time that he really didn't stand out for a long time in his tenure with the Eagles. And everybody was really upset that we took him in the first round for a lot of years. Looking back on it, nobody will say such a thing because Brandon Graham is the man. We love Brandon Graham.
This is fair. But their opponent is a horrible person. And
it's the point of that, he's sitting behind these veterans. We've got great coaches over there. We know how to run the D line, obviously, as like in this organization. And I think that, they want to keep him around and hope that he blossoms at some point. I don't know if he will. I don't really think he will. I don't think he's Brandon Graham. But at the same time, he's definitely a piece that I wouldn't say I just want to throw away by any means.
I do. The only thing getting thrown around him is penalty flags because he keeps jumping off sides.
He does get a lot of
I'm not negative. I just don't like him. I hate him. So looking at the linebacking core, I wanted to mention that, we're obviously, we thought Christian Ellis during the preseason. We mentioned that on the podcast last time we talked. Zach Cunningham looked to take over that spot. I didn't really watch a lot of the Texans other than us playing them. Do you have anything to say, good or bad about him? I don't know much about him. I'm hoping
I don't either. I recall him being pretty decent in Madden. That's about the best I can say about him. That's
fair. That's very fair.
So, yeah, I actually don't know much about him, and I didn't get to see a whole lot of snaps from him in preseason. I missed a couple of the games, so I can't say a whole lot about his play yet. But I have heard good things about him, and it does seem like he's going to be taking over that second spot. I think Christian Ellis surprised them, did fairly well for where he stood, but I don't think they ever saw him as the answer to the equation.
Yeah.
So I think that it's going to be Dean and Cunningham running up the middle.
I mean, it was really nice to see that Miles Jack came back just to realize that he just wants to retire again.
Yeah, he was planning on it to start this season. I think he was surprised to get a call, and he was like, I guess, but he was losing the love for it. You could tell, and he just, I think he came back, and it just wasn't hitting the same that it did for him before, and he was just like, yeah, I don't think there's any point in risking my body for this.
That's fair.
So I don't blame him either. Honestly, I was really hoping he was going to stick around because I thought he was a great pickup. He was really good in his first few years in the league. He was really good out of college. I was hoping that he was going to stick around with us and take over that starting spot, but it is what it is. I hope the best for him. Wish him all the best wishes. Hope he enjoys his retirement, but I wish he could have stuck around and got himself a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Yes, sir.
I know you mentioned it earlier, but the safety position, we do have a lot of depth there. And one guy I wanted to mention was Sidney Brown. That did you see that? Happen to see that hit?
I feel like I might have seen a clip in running, but I didn't really get to see it.
He demolished the guy. Basically took his helmet off. It was awesome.
Then I definitely didn't see that. No, I think I saw something else.
Yeah. I think our friend Mike might have sent it to me, and he's like, watch when Matt Mitchell sees this clip, he's gonna think the next B-Dog and love this guy.
I think a lot of from the sounds of it, a lot of people are fairly confident in Sidney Brown and his abilities. I know I've heard Ike Reese talking him up on WIP like crazy.
Yeah, no, he's he's only looked good. I mean,
He
he's
had
got.
the I'm sorry to cut you off.
You're good.
Since we are talking about him, I did want to mention he had the lowest passer rating allowed in preseason out of secondary, and he didn't allow a single reception.
It's good.
Yeah, he covered really well. Is basically the point. Obviously, coverage stats are a little harder to gauge with safeties than it is with corners, but he had a good preseason. He had a very good preseason.
Yeah, no. I mean, I guess Blankenship, they already solidified as a starter there, but Edmonds is a good veteran to have.
Edmonds is going to be the guy to start. And I think I say you should expect to see Sidney Brown taking over most of the snaps by midseason.
Okay.
That's what I'm expecting. I think regardless, you're going to see Sidney Brown rotating in a pretty good amount. I think Reed Blankenship is probably going to be the steady guy. I think you'll see a mix of Edmonds and Sidney. And I think by the end of it, Sidney's going to start taking over most of the reps.
I mean, that makes sense. We did get him in, the third round?
Third or fourth. I think he might have been a fourth.
I think we took Ringo in the fourth, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Oh no,
I can't remember if we had two. I can't remember if we had 2 fourths or not. I think we trade out of the third at the end and take like an early fourth and a late fourth.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking. But either way, no, I do agree. I mean, he's a young guy, so you have to work him in slowly, just like they're gonna do with. And obviously, we're excited for Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith to be here, especially Jalen Carter. He looked amazing.
Yeah. Seeing Nolan Smith, like obviously, like I feel like it's almost obvious to say how good Carter has been. Like he has just been the talk of not only the Eagles fans, but like practically the league. Like he's already putting the league on notice. He's had like 5 preseason snaps, and every time he's been on the field, he looks dangerous. So he's going to be an exciting player to watch. And the fact that people are consistently comparing him to Aaron Donald is probably a little excessive, but incredible respect for what he's doing, and people know what he's going to be.
Yeah.
And then with Nolan Smith, the play that really got me was seeing him hawk a guy running a 4.2. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, no,
he
has
hawking a 4.2 wide receiver. Like
he definitely has speed.
He's going to be exciting too.
It's just
I hope that shoulder injury's healing up well. I haven't heard anything about it, to be honest.
He said, did you see that interview? He literally shook the reporter's hand. He said, "I can shake your hand. See, I'm fine." He's a funny guy. He's a funny. It was a funny interview, but I guess like it just shows how big like Jalen Carter was. Cause I saw them 2 standing next to each other in person, and I was like, oh my god, like Nolan Smith looks tiny, but like then I look like myself. I'm like, oh my god, Nolan Smith is huge. It's not that
you don't say.
He's not that big of a guy, but like compared to like other like outside linebackers, but he's freaking fast, that's for sure.
That is definitely for sure.
Oh god. But
and then quickly just to go over the last little bit, there's not really anything else that's a surprise to anybody. Obviously, our running backs are Swift, Gainwell, Scott, and Penny. Quarterbacks are Hurts, Mariota, and McKee. McKee had a great preseason. If Mariota's not careful, he's going to lose that backup spot. But
I feel like it was talked about way too much that Mariota played crappy during preseason. I feel like that's the issue we were addressing. I understand he didn't do much, and I'm not impressed with him, but like I don't know what you expected from him. Like I didn't expect him to be a great backup. I
kind of expect him to be a great backup, considering like as a backup. If you're just talking about a backup, I thought he was great because he was a starter. He was a starter last year. Not to mention he was a number 2 overall pick, and he's had a decent career, not a good one. But I didn't think he played too bad. I didn't think he played too bad with the. I was overstepping with the good career. He didn't have a good career. However,
he threw this pass to himself and got a touchdown, so he's kind of cool,
yeah. He just didn't do that bad with not the Cardinals. He didn't do that bad with the Falcons. I didn't think so. Like I expected him to have a good solid like. I expected him to be smarter with the ball than he has been being in preseason. Is what I'm getting at. Like this is a guy who is now a veteran, has been in the league for a long time. He knows how to read defenses, and he's throwing more picks than ever. And I wasn't expecting that out of him. So
I just feel like he's a guy that's getting older, and he's still trying to rely on his legs too much. When he is still fast, but like he just hasn't really adapted to being like a strictly pocket thrower, which is like, I mean, he's been in the league since Chip Kelly, so
yeah, he's been in the league a lot longer than you like to give credit to him.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, like he's a veteran. I guess it's nice to have. I mean, I usually take preseason with a grain of salt. Obviously, if someone does good, it's amazing. If someone does bad, I like to think they could do better. But
yeah, me too. I'm not terribly worried about him. I just, I was impressed with McKee. Everyone was very not impressed with Mariota. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, McKee's a much better passer based on what we saw. Obviously, you can't go too much off, like you said, can't go too much off the preseason. But McKee looked pretty good, and I thought he was pretty good in college too. So I kind of was expecting him to be half decent. I never expected him to be a starter or anything, but I expected him to be a half decent backup, and seeming like he might be. So we'll see.
I mean, I also feel like that people, when they have expectations, especially Philly in general, just because everyone's crapping on Mariota so much, when you have expectations that are higher, like no one expected Tanner McKee to do like anything during the preseason. Like at all, like if he did nothing, it wouldn't have mattered. Like Ian Book, like no one's talking about him doing bad. He was horrible, by the way, but he didn't. It doesn't matter because he was fighting for the third string spot. Like no one cares. Yeah. Like, and then Mariota, like you expect him to be a solid backup, and he didn't look that. So you're just gonna give more credit to the other. But that's just my take. I knew everyone talked about it for like a whole week just because there was nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, preseason is preseason. It's not super exciting. It's just working the kinks out and getting back into gear. So I get it, but I figured I would mention it just because while we're on it.
Yeah.
But we've pretty much talked about the whole roster. The only other thing we can really talk about is the O-line, and for the most part, people are pretty aware of who those guys are. Our backup tackles are Steen, Driscoll, and Johnson, not Lane, obviously.
Freddie boy.
Yes. So, not a big surprise there. These are guys that have been on the team before. Tyler Steen was an early pick for us, third round. Was he a second or third round pick? I forget.
Somewhere in there. I think didn't we sign Fred Johnson?
Yeah, I think so. And then lastly, between center and offensive guard, you've got Kelsey, Dickerson, Juergens, and Sua Opeta, all guys that have been around before. And it's the same thing with the edge. You've got Reddick, Sweat, Brandon Graham, Nolan Smith, Derek Barnett. And the only one that's new is Patrick Johnson. And, he's probably never really going to get any time.
Special teams guy.
Yeah.
He'll be good on special teams.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it. We've really gone over everything. So, this roster, we made some changes, but it's not too different from last year. We have a lot of the same guys, a lot of the same rotations in particular. And the new guys that we brought in, I think, are going to stand out and do just as well as the guys we lost. Obviously, we lost Javon Hargrave. It's hard to say that you can expect someone to have a season like he did last year, but Jalen Carter looks like he's absolutely poised to be able to. Yeah. I'm not going to say he's going to, but he's absolutely poised to be able to. At the safety position, we lost CJ, but then, Reed Blankenship is stepping up. He's been really impressive. And like we talked about, Sidney Brown could be very up and coming. And then you've got Terrell Edmonds, who is just a veteran who knows how to play the game. So these are like spots that we didn't exactly lose anything at. Linebacker is going to be our biggest question. I think Dean's going to have a better year than any of our guys did last year. But the second linebacker spot is where I come into question, just because I don't know a whole lot about Cunningham, and I don't know exactly how much or little he's going to be giving to the team. So
I mean, White was just consistently just there, and he didn't really mess up too much.
Exactly.
And then PJ was a solid force in the middle, but
exactly.
I do love Dean, as I mentioned a million times on here.
I think Dean's going to have a standout year. I really do.
I can't believe it. I'll make a Kelly Green jersey with the number 17 on it, and I'm very upset about it. I want to make a voice to the Eagles organization right now that I'm going to have to customize it. So make that customizable because I want to put Dean on my back.
I think they do have customizable Kelly Greens.
Do they? Finally, they came out with it. They didn't come out with it when I first was looking.
Yeah, I think I was checking the other day. They're like 180, but they're there.
I have to buy it. But the only thing I wanted to mention when you say the same rotations was the running back room. Do you still have the same take of DeAndre Swift getting $1,300 purpose yards or whatever you?
Well, obviously, I will definitely stand behind my comment in saying that I think that he would be more than capable in our system. But based on how we're going to use him, I do have to take it back. It does not seem like we're going to use him as much as I initially thought we were going to. I thought he was going to be taking over the primary role, like in general. But as of right now, Kenneth Gainwell is our number 1, and he's our number 2, and Penny's our number 3, and Penny and him are both interchangeable for that second spot. I think it's just our running back room is going to be based on situational football.
Like whenever we play the Giants, we also obviously put Scott in.
Yes, obviously Boston Scott will be our lead back
the entire game.
Kenny Gainwell, for the most part, I think is going to be our main back. I think you're going to see Rashad Penny in a lot of power down situations, and I think you're going to see DeAndre Swift in almost all passing situations.
I think we're going to see a lot of like when we used to running back formations with like Swift being in like a slot or something. Like
you'll definitely see Swift in the slot this year.
I even saw him. I mention I saw him lining up outside in the one at the practice. I don't know
at the practice,
but yeah, he was
mentioned it to me. But I wouldn't be surprised to hear it because
it was cool. It was nice, and then they tried
they're
to.
They're practically going to use him as wide receiver.
Yeah, which is, I mean, if you can use him as that. However you want to use him.
Well, grabbing him was kind of awesome because obviously going into the draft, we weren't really sure who we were going to be getting in that top 10 spot, and a lot of people wanted Bijan, and a lot of people wanted Bijan because not only is he a great runner, but you can line him up anywhere in the field and he can play that position. Mm-hmm. And you kind of just got the same thing in DeAndre Swift without using that pick, and you use that pick for Jalen Carter. So, I mean, that was another masterclass move by Howie to be able to get the running back that like archetype that we were looking for, as well as use that top 10 pick on probably the best player in the draft.
Not to mention that Bijan's the highest paid running back in the league right now because of his rookie contract.
Exactly.
And we got Swift for what? $1 million?
I think $1 million or $2 million.
$1.5 million.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think Bijan might have more potential just because he's been that guy. He's supposed to be that guy.
I mean, he was a top 8 pick. He should be that guy. I hope they use him in the way that he can be. He's probably going to be really good. I definitely wanted Bijan. I'm not going to lie about it. I would have loved to have Bijan, but
yeah,
I can't say I'm any bit upset that we grabbed Jalen Carter instead.
Yeah, no, I would definitely rather have.
I would definitely rather have Jalen Carter
than just Bijan.
Maybe I'll eat my words. We had talked about it before. Initially, going into the draft, the only reason I wasn't so excited about Jalen Carter was because of his, not his character issues, but his, like how he was going to be dealing with it. Because going into the draft, he had gained weight. He wasn't taking a lot of interviews. He just seemed like he was in a dark spot mentally, and that's the only thing I was worried about for him. But now that he's back over, he's gotten through that situation. Haven't heard a whole lot about that.
We also
got drafted with his teammates. Got to stay feeling comfortable and happy. And as far as I can see, I mean, he looks happy where he's at, and that's not a worry for me anymore. Now I just get to see the dominant Jalen Carter that I was looking forward to.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for it.
So yeah, next week, jumping into game week preparation, guys. It's that time of year. So that's exciting. We'll be coming back to you guys with some, stat breakdowns between the Patriots and the Eagles going into next week and their matchup on Sunday. We'll break that down for you guys. That'll be what most of the episode is going to be about. We'll, update you on any news. Speaking of news, we didn't talk about Isaiah Rodgers.
Or Isaiah Simmons?
No, Isaiah Rodgers, the cornerback we just signed from the
Colts. Not playing this
year. That was a great signing stash, if you ask me.
So if those of you who don't know, Isaiah Rodgers suspended this entire year for gambling. Yep. Based off what criteria, I don't know why Jameson Williams gets 6 games and he gets that. I don't know if and Calvin Ridley got a whole year. I don't know if
I think Isaiah Rodgers bet on one of their own games.
Oh, is that what Ridley
I
did
think
too?
he bet on like I think he bet on the rushing yards in the game, which obviously he has no control over, so it's not like he was cheating or anything, but like it's still an idiot move.
It's just so stupid. You're costing yourself all your game checks, and you're not even. I guarantee they're not putting millions of dollars on this bet.
Absolutely not. That's just an idiotic.
So idiotic.
But the way I look at it is, you just got yourself a starting caliber signing stash. So at cornerback. So, he was a starter before. I didn't know much about him, but you got a starting caliber cornerback as a signing stash. So like, hooray, cool. Yeah, and then real quick, we're not going to dive into it because we're getting late in the episode, but Isaiah Simmons to the Giants for a 7th round pick was absurd. Very upset that they didn't try to get him for that price, considering, but yeah, I mean, good for the Giants. I think they just got themselves a dog. I was really shocked. I know he hasn't lived up to the standards that he was picked at, but to say that he's a bad linebacker is probably pretty crazy as well. So, good for them. He might be a problem for the Eagles. I wouldn't be surprised to see it.
No, there's been a lot of guys like that we should have got that have been underwhelming in their careers thus far. Like he didn't look that great. There was people bringing up clips of why they got rid of, but like he's on the Cardinals. Like, do you want him to try? I'm just kidding. That sounds horrible. Still the NFL, but
the way you crap on teams and like is so funny. You did
the worst thing in the league.
It's so subtle, but it's great.
I don't mean to. It's just sad. But this is why I'm not an NFL player. That's one of the many reasons. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna suck when he's
I can just see him being a problem for the Eagles. Like, he just feels like the kind of player that would give Eagles so many problems, especially seeing him in the division every year. But
I could see him crushing Devonta Smith and him getting hurt and everyone making fun of us.
All right, well, loud knock on wood there, because that was a little ridiculous of a comment. But on that note,
we're gonna end the episode and talk about the Patriots next week, gentlemen. Ladies.
So yeah, like I said, we'll be talking about the Patriots next week. So make sure you tune in, like and subscribe to this video. If you enjoy hearing what we're talking about, enjoy getting updates on the Eagles, we'll have everything for you. So thanks for tuning in today. We're all getting geared up for the season, so get yourselves ready, get your popcorn, and let's get the season rolling.
Woo!
Go Birds. We'll see you guys later.
Go Birds.